Ruby lead. You are clear for engagement.
Tonight, the skies over Tehran aren't just burning, they're being rewritten. Radar profile marble-sized, combat configuration beast mode. 16 Israeli Adirs just entered the 150-kilometer kill zone of an Iranian S-300 battery that was supposed to be rubble. 9 days of air defense dismantling were about to be undone by a single cold-started launcher. Iran's S-300 was waiting in the shadows, silent, cold, and lethal. This is the raw, unfiltered account of the night stealth died and a $250 million Inferno began. The pilots were locked in weapons-hot confidence high. Then everything changed in a heartbeat. The target the Israelis had struck on March 3rd was nothing more than a convincing decoy. A perfect fake launcher with the right silhouette on satellite, passes, a believable thermal signature, and enough scattered debris to fool even the most careful analysts. But the real S-300 system had been quietly towed 50 kilometers deeper into the mountains and sat cold and silent ever since, waiting like a venomous snake for the exact moment the F-35's would expose themselves. Those 16 aircraft, each carrying 4 Spice 1000 precision-guided bombs on external wing pylons and 2 massive GBU-31 JDAMs crammed into the internal bays, had traded away their legendary stealth for raw striking power. Every pylon, every rack, every hardpoint multiplied the radar return until the jets lit up like delivery trucks on enemy scopes. Israel calls this configuration beast mode, a calculated gamble that there would be nothing left alive to detect them after 9 days of relentless coalition pounding. The S-300 crew was calling that bluff with lethal intent, their battery now holding a 90-second window to fire and erase an entire flight of elite Israeli pilots in one savage volley. The moment the Iranian radar painted the formation an EA-18G Growler from the USS Abraham Lincoln's Air Wing orbiting western Iran precisely to catch this kind of ambush, triangulated the emission source in seconds and flashed coordinates over Link 16 to a second Growler 60 miles south. An AGM-88 HARM missile leapt off the rail. Its seeker locked hard on the enemy frequency, accelerating past Mach 2 in a streak of pure vengeance. Inside the lead F-35 call sign, Ruby led the pilot watch the threat diamond pulse red on his helmet display. The harm was 70 seconds out. The S-300 remained in search mode, but a skilled crew could flip to fire control tracking in under 40 seconds. If that antenna switched to continuous illumination before the harm arrived, the next thing the Israelis would see would be a surface-to-air missile with their names written across it in fire and shrapnel. 60 seconds. The Growler pilot held the emission steady on scope, watching the harm's track converge. 50. The S-300 pulse rate quickened the beam, narrowing with deadly focus. 40. Still searching, not yet locked. The Israeli formation pressed east through the darkness. Every pilot braced for one of 2 possible flashes on the horizon: the harm destroying the radar, or an Iranian missile leaping skyward to meet them. The harm slammed into the antenna array at Mach 2.1, erasing a $15 million air defense battery in a blinding explosion that lit the entire mountain ridge like a second sunrise. 9 days of painstaking patience from the Iranian side had been undone in 4 seconds. The crew never made it to fire control. They never got the shot. Yet as the fireball faded across the peaks, the deeper lesson burned brighter than the flames. Degraded and destroyed were 2 very different words in this war. If one S-300 had survived weeks of strikes by hiding cold in the mountains, the real question was no longer whether Iran had concealed more systems. It was how many more were waiting in the darkness, ready to announce themselves the instant the next threat diamond lit up on an Israeli display. The hatred fueling these Iranian deceptions ran deep, a calculated betrayal born of years of proxy conflict and open hostility that now threatened to turn the entire mission into a graveyard of burning jets. But the pilots had something even more pressing weighing on their minds than hidden missiles. 1,800 kilometers separated Nevatim Air Base from Tehran, and the same distance back. On any earlier operation, that distance would have required aerial refueling from KC. 77 tankers orbiting Western Iraq positions so predictable that Iranian intelligence had been mapping their every shift for days. Tonight, the Adir jets carried external drop tanks to buy that extra range, a move that granted independence, but left zero margin for error. Think of it as racing across the desert with exactly enough fuel to reach the next station, no detours, no mistakes, no wasted maneuvers. Except every evasive turn against a missile threat was a wrong turn that burned precious reserves. The S-300 engagement had already consumed fuel the planners had technically not budgeted, and the formation had not even reached the first major target yet, 12 kilometers from the Chevron depot, the largest fuel storage complex in northwestern Tehran, holding 11 massive tanks and 260 million liters of petroleum products. Ruby Flight received the second threat diamond of the night. This time the danger came not from behind, but from inside the depot perimeter itself. A Russian-supplied Pantsir S, one mobile short-range point defense system parked cunningly between the storage tanks, shielded from satellite imagery by the very geometry of the tank farm. Its 20-kilometer missile envelope and radar-directed twin 30mm autocannons, capable of spitting 5,000 rounds per minute, made it the last line of desperate defense. The normal Adir escort flight that would have neutralized such a pop-up threat was still 50 kilometers behind, still recovering from the S-300 engagement. Ruby Flight had no anti-radiation missiles left. Their only tools were the built-in ASQ-239 electronic warfare suite and a hard brake turn. A hard brake during a precision bomb run meant risking the entire drop. Ruby. Lead pressed in from 16,000 feet in a calculated dive. The Pantsir's tracking radar burning through the jamming at 14 kilometers and closing fast. For roughly 8 agonizing seconds, the Israeli jet flew straight through the autocannon's 4-kilometer kill zone, while the pilot held the aircraft rock steady for weapons release. The Spice 1000 bomb left the wing pylon. The instant its scene-matching guidance confirmed the target. Folding wings extended the weapon, glided silently on GPS toward the depot. Then, in the final seconds, its electro-optical seeker photographed the ground and compared every pixel against the 3-dimensional reference image loaded before takeoff. It did not simply fall toward coordinates. It recognized its target like facial recognition software for buildings delivering circular error, probable of just 3 meters the length of a car. The pilot called weapon away and slammed the jet into a crushing hard right brake, flares punching out in pairs as the G-forces pinned him against the seat. The Pantsir missile warning tone screamed in his helmet. One round had left the rail and was tracking. The ASQ-239 system flooded the seeker with overwhelming electronic noise, degrading the missile's guidance until the tone warbled and faded. The enemy round corkscrewed harmlessly into the darkness behind the formation, but the Pantsir radar continued radiating, still dangerous and still sitting directly between 11 untouched fuel tanks. Tank number 2 detonated first. The Spice warhead punched through the steel shell and exploded 2 feet above the fuel surface, atomizing 30 million liters of gasoline into a massive vapor cloud that ignited in a roaring fireball 300 meters high, orange and black rolling upward into the night sky like an angry god. The Adir escort arrived 60 seconds later, its pilot having watched the entire Pantsir engagement unfold through the F-35's distributed aperture system. 6 infrared cameras that see in every direction. The escort rolled in, released its own spice, and put the weapon straight through the Pantsir's chassis, silencing the radar mid-sweep. $30 million of Russian air defense hidden for days between fuel tanks had been destroyed by a glide bomb, costing far less than the radar dish it obliterated. 2 surface-to-air engagements in the first 7 minutes, each with zero margin for error. Tank 4, filled with diesel, burned hotter and longer, its ruptured sidewall feeding the Inferno. Tanks 7 and 9 erupted within a second of each other. 4 separate impacts merging into one apocalyptic blaze that threw flickering shadows across entire neighborhoods a kilometer away. Then came the problem no mission planner had modeled. A towering smoke column punched through 5,000 feet, expanding eastward across the Tehran basin and drifting directly into the approach corridors of every remaining target. Sapphire flight loaded with GBU-31 JDAMs slammed into that man-made wall 12 miles east of the next depot, not from enemy fire, but from the choking aftermath of their own success. Their bombs might steer by GPS through the haze, but human eyes and targeting pods could not confirm the crosshairs without a clear visual. Sapphire 1 repositioned 15 degrees south, burning 40 seconds of fuel he could not afford until a fleeting gap in the smoke revealed the hard edge of a tank roof. Crosshairs locked, coordinates matched, weapon released. The JDAM's tail kit corrected 10 times per second, guiding the bomb through clear air on the far side for a perfect hit that peeled the roof back like a can lid before the fuel inside detonated. Yet the second problem arrived on the same frequency as the first. A truck-mounted Iranian GPS jammer, domestically built and moved every few hours, suddenly flooded the L1 and L2 bands that every JDAM depended on. The fixed jammers had been destroyed on day 1, but these mobile units remained elusive. Both primary and backup electro-optical guidance paths degraded simultaneously by threats that had no idea the other existed. A 2,000-pound bomb reporting nominal guidance while actually drifting 200 meters off course toward whatever sat at the phantom coordinate, with the pilot unable to see the error through the smoke until satellite imagery arrived hours later. 60 kilometers west, an F-15 IRAM, with its Wizzo in the back seat, ran the APG-82 radar in ground mapping mode, painting terrain through the smoke and cross-referencing returns against target data. When the numbers stopped matching, the Wizzo keyed updated aim points into Link 16 and pushed them instantly to every aircraft in the package, stitching together a corrected solution from radar returns and data links running at full capacity. While every sensor focused on smoke and phantom coordinates, something deadly launched out of the darkness south of Tehran that nobody had seen coming. A single MiG-29 had rolled off a dispersed runway during the Chevron explosions, using the thermal chaos of burning fuel tanks as perfect cover. Radar off, running completely dark. The Fulcrum pilot relied on passive infrared search and track to sweep the sky. At 15 kilometers, the system locked onto an F-16 Barak descending through 18,000 feet, engines at military power, pilot attention fixed on the ground. The MiG closed silently like carbon monoxide. No emissions, no warnings, until the R-73 missile tone built in the cockpit at 8 kilometers. The Barak pilot would never have seen the shot coming. But an Adir transitioning south from the Pantsir fight caught the moving heat signature on its distributed aperture system, locked the MiG with fire control radar at 30 kilometers, and forced the Iranian pilot into a desperate, hard descending break into the thermal clutter of the burning depots. The MiG escaped south at low altitude, no shots fired, but 8 kilometers inside R-73 range meant the Barak had been seconds from death. Iran's Air Force was supposed to be grounded and broken. Nobody had told this MiG-29 pilot whose lone act of defiance proved the depth of the hatred still burning in Tehran's skies. The hardest target still lay ahead. The Tehran refinery in Char, a 225,000 barrel per day facility packed with cracking towers, distillation columns, and pressurized vessels holding superheated hydrocarbon vapor at 400 degrees Celsius. Emerald lead, an F-15 Ram lined up on the northern perimeter storage. With its Wizzo, trusting a radar picture stitched from corrected coordinates through accumulated smoke from 3 depot fires and thermal plumes rising at velocities that dwarfed normal turbulence. Fuel gauges had already crossed bingo 4 minutes earlier, the point where doctrine demanded immediate return to base. The extra drop tanks that had granted independence from tankers were now bone dry. One pass, one chance. The Wizzo stared at coordinates he could not visually confirm, committed, and released the JDAM into the burning atmosphere on borrowed numbers. The first weapon struck the northern storage area, triggering a secondary detonation of 60,000 barrels that registered on university seismographs as an earthquake. The second weapon bracketed the refinery core with 120 meters of clearance. The bomb shoved 3 meters off trajectory by superheated updrafts, yet still hitting its mark. Through smoke, GPS drift, and thermal chaos. The margin between precision strike and catastrophe had been measured in single meters, achieved through technology training and sheer Israeli resolve. Listeners, pause for a second and ask yourself this. How does one formation of Israeli fighters outnumbered and outgunned on paper dismantle? Layered Iranian defenses survive decoys, mobile SAMs, PS jamming, and a surprise MiG ambush, all in the space of a single high-risk night raid. Is this the moment the balance of power in the region shifted forever? Or are we watching the opening chapter of something far larger and more explosive? Drop your thoughts right now in the comments. By the time the last aircraft egressed, the Tehran basin glowed like a second sunrise from end to end. The coordinated Iranian defense had unraveled under relentless pressure. Its tricks exposed its best weapons, neutralized its air force, reduced to lone suicide runs that failed to land a single blow. This was not luck. This was the Israeli Air Force operating at the absolute peak of its game, turning hatred into humiliation and turning the night sky over Iran into a blazing testament to superior skill, superior technology, and unbreakable will. The petroleum heart of Iran's war machine now burned openly, and the message echoed louder than any explosion when Israel strikes. The results are final, precise, and devastating. Stay locked to this live war desk, because the skies over the Middle East just got a whole lot hotter, and the next chapter is already writing itself in fire and smoke. This has been your live war desk, raw, real, and relentless. Click subscribe now. Don't miss a single moment of this historic journey. Your time is valuable. We promise analyses as sharp as reality itself. Stay vigilant, stay informed. We'll see you in the next video. Disclaimer: this video contains content generated or supported in whole or in part by artificial intelligence. This material is intended solely for simulation, illustration, and entertainment purposes. It does not represent real-world events, nor does it constitute political or military advice or verified information. Certain elements may be fictional, dramatized, or inaccurate. Viewers should not rely on this video as a credible source of information or as a basis for real-world decision-making.